say something.
Test, test, test. Okay, commissioners, we're live on YouTube, so if you guys are ready to get started, it's 6:30.
Start. All right, welcome to our North Logan City Planning Commission meeting, June 5th, 2025. We're glad to have you here with us. We will begin with our opening ceremony. Heather will lead us in a pledge, and Teresa will offer a prayer.
We keep together, I guess. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful this night for the opportunity we have to live in a great part of the world. We're grateful that we could live in North Logan City and grateful for the opportunities that it affords us. We're grateful as commissioners that we have the opportunity to serve our city. We ask you thou might help us to be able to make those decisions that would be best for the people that we serve. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Heather and Teresa. We would like to have a motion to adopt the agenda. Anyone? Teresa moved and
I'll second. Oh,
and
go ahead.
Tracy seconded it. All in favor of adopting the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Minutes. Did we have minutes?
No, not this time. We'll have them up for our next meeting in mid-June.
Good, because all of a sudden I thought, I didn't see minutes. Yeah. All right. Tracy, this is your last meeting with us. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're going to do what you're going to do, but we're going to miss you.
Thanks.
Thank you you have been a solid force here.
I've learned a lot from all of you, so this has been great. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Good luck with your future.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Any other words you want to leave with us?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Scott, any follow-up on issues from previous meetings?
Yeah, just one quick item, well, two. So with Tracy's departure, the council did appoint another planning fill the spot. Deidre Hartwell will be filling the vacancy. She'll be moving into the alternate position, and then Porter will be moving into a regular position. So we'll get her up to speed, and hopefully we'll see her at our next meeting. So we'll look forward to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. The other item is if you'll recall, at our last planning commission meeting, we had the Lambert rezone on the corner of 1800 North and 8th East. That item went to City Council last night and was reviewed and was approved as those conditions in the staff report. So they reviewed the Planning Commission's recommendation, appreciated your work on that, but that has been approved. So the next step there is to have that owner sign that development agreement. That was a condition of approval. And then we'll get the zoning map amended officially with the county. And then we'll look forward to a subdivision application at some point in the future. So that's where that's at, and maybe we'll see it again in the near future. We'll see. It's kind of up to their timeline as to when they want to put that together and get it submitted, but we'll keep an eye open. That's the only other follow-up item I have for you guys.
Okay, great. Then we'll move on to item number 1. It's public hearing, Village Springs subdivision, review and recommendation of the preliminary plat, subdivision improvement plans, and the public right-of-way vacation with the Village Springs. Scott, do you want to lead us into that one, please?
Yeah, let me pull this up. So here's the preliminary plat. Just a quick synopsis as to where we are on this. So you may recall this came to the Planning Commission and to the City Council several months ago as a city center development plan. And that application and review was primarily focused on what is the layout, what are the aesthetics, what's the landscaping, does it meet our city center ordinance for architecture, for aesthetics, for the SF6 zone, which is where this is located. So that received an approval, and the next step in this process is to have the property subdivided. So we are reviewing the preliminary plat, the development plan, and there is a easement vacation associated with this subdivision as well. So one thing, let me hop into the staff report. I'll leave this this plat up so everybody can see what we're looking at. There were a couple of conditions of approval from the development plan, and those conditions are still applicable, but they're not necessarily items that we are reviewing all of those conditions with the preliminary plat. Some of those conditions are applicable before final plat is approved. So those are still there. If you'll recall what those were, they're in the staff report. We're still keeping an eye on those conditions, but we'll make sure that those are satisfied before final plat. This is the first step in a two-step process for the plat to be approved. Preliminary comes first, then final comes next. So we're still looking through those items, and we'll keep looking into them before this project is finished. But I wanted to focus on, in this phase of review, what we're looking for is making sure that the plat meets code. So this is an administrative review. It's not legislative for the layout and the configuration at this point. So what we're looking at is the lot widths. We're looking at the lot dimensions. Are they big enough? Do they have adequate access? And what we're seeing is on this layout, as we see it here, the SF6 zone allows up to 6 units per acre. The subject property has a gross acreage of 11.05 acres. So hypothetically, if they were to put 6 units to the acre, they could have a maximum density of 66 units. But what you'll see on this configuration is the best that they could, and the most efficient that they could lay it out, equates to 51 lots. So we're well under the density count. All the lots are at least 50 feet wide, which is the minimum for SF6. The DRC did review their improvement plans for their culinary water connections, their secondary water connections, their stormwater system, sanitary sewer, and made sure that all of those elements meet our design standards and our technical management. So that's a very technical review that we do behind the scenes as part of our development review committee. And the only thing that we need to really discuss with the applicant, and will be a condition of approval as mentioned in the staff report, is the stormwater infrastructure as it's currently drawn in the improvement plans. Shows all the stormwater on the private streets. So all of these private streets that are HOA maintained, that stormwater is being put into detention basins on that southwest corner. And that's totally fine. The issue that we're looking at is right now, as proposed, the public street, this 2380 north up to 2400 north, the proposed stormwater design conveys that water to the west and ties it into an existing catch basin in the subdivision west of here. And as we've identified, this city system is not able to take that stormwater, and it needs to be augmented so it can stay on site. So there will be a tweak needed to take this stormwater, convey it down to these basins, expand the capacity of those basins. And so you'll see that that's a condition of approval. That's the one item that the DRC has outstanding as not being compliant with our technical standards. So that's an element that needs to be understood by everybody so we catch that before it's finished. Let me go back to the staff report. I'm going to zoom in on this exhibit here. One of the other items that we had identified early through just our development plan review, and our attorney had pointed out as well, this property has a unique, what we call a gap parcel. And if you see on this exhibit here, there's some, it's actually old right-of-way. It's a little sliver on the north side, and then there's a half-width right-of-way on the west side. And as a condition of the development plan approval, we had asked the developer to go chat with their title company, do some title history, and understand if that is old public right-of-way or if that's privately owned property. If it was privately owned property, the applicant would need to purchase the property from whoever it was associated with, or if it was found to be old public right-of-way, then there was a process that we need to go through to vacate that right-of-way and allow it to not be public right-of-way and be conveyed to the developer. Through that review process, it was found to be old public right-of-way, and so with that understood, we want to make sure that we vacate that so it's a clean title. So there's no right-of-way going through someone's backyard. State code requires for us to vacate that we hold a public hearing. We notice that there's that is proposed to be vacated, and then we send it to City Council to formally approve the vacation of that right-of-way. So as part of this consideration tonight, there will be a public hearing, and we will want to understand if there's any public comments on the vacation portion of this. But we always hold a public hearing with subdivisions, as our current code requires, just to get the public's input on whether or not they believe this subdivision meets code. Keep in mind, this is administrative in nature. It's a technical review for compliance. If it doesn't meet code, then we need to make sure it does. But through the public hearing process, those comments should be focused on whether or not there's a code issue at play. Other than that, the DRC does have a positive recommendation on this project with that one condition of approval. But happy to answer any questions. We do have our applicant here, Rick Champlin, in the audience if you'd like to speak to it as well.
Okay, thank you. Ray, do you want to say anything before we start? We'll give you a minute.
Yeah, I don't really have any comments about what was discussed other than, we have some additional space. Again, my name's Rick Champlin, let's say that. We have some additional space on some of the lots that would allow for additional stormwater to be kept within the subdivision based on how, the size of some of those corner lots that are over by where the proposed stormwater is. We can take some space out of those. But other than that, I don't have a ton of comments. So I'm looking forward to moving forward with the project and meeting all the requirements that have been proposed.
Okay,
Can I ask
Teresa.
you a question? So from what you just said, you're okay with the additional stormwater requirement? You feel like you can do what's required?
Yeah, I'm sure we can make some adjustments to the plans with the engineers that will accommodate the additional stormwater demands of not being able to do it as it's currently drawn.
Okay.
So it's not prohibitive for you at all.
Okay, any other questions, commissioners? All right, thank you. We'll open our public hearing. I'll read you the rules. Before you begin, please state your name for the record. Speak into the microphone so your comments can be recorded. Right up there. Please limit your statements to 3 minutes. You're not allowed to combine or bank minutes to speak on behalf of others. Please phrase your opinions in the form of statements, not questions. A public hearing is your opportunity to express your opinions to the planning commissioner, not a time to ask questions of or to expect dialogue between yourself and the commission or city staff. Please address your comments to the planning commission, not to the public. The commission might ask questions about your comments in order for them to better understand you. In the future, note that if you have questions or need to discuss an issue, you may meet with the planning commission members of the appropriate city staff member before the public hearing, where dialogue can take place. You may provide a written statement as your input for a hearing. You may read your entire statement or summarize it. The 3-minute limit still applies. You may provide a copy of a written statement to the city recorder. He will make copies for the Planning Commission, and the written statement will become a part of the public record. However, the written submitted statement will not be included in the minutes of the meeting. All right, we will open up our public hearing. If anyone would like to address anything.
My name is Cindy Beeston, and I live 2 doors away from the intersection of 300 East and 2400. And putting this road through as a thoroughfare is going to impact me and my neighbors greatly by increased traffic coming through that intersection. I am concerned about that increased traffic and how it will affect our neighborhood. I'm also concerned about the people who reside in Cinnamon Ridge Mobile Home Park who are losing 10 to 15 feet of their backyards. And I'm concerned that one, they haven't been adequately notified that this is going to be happening, that they're going to be losing this so that they can make other arrangements, whether it is trying to sell their, spot or whatever. But I think just as compassionate, good people, we should give them as much notice as possible that this is going to be happening to them. They had an inkling because we went around door to door telling them that this might happen, and they were appalled. They didn't know anything about it. And I think to be good neighbors and be a good city, we need to keep our citizens informed. And these people, they have the right to be informed. This is happening, not to look out their door and see bulldozers and whatnot else and go, what's happening to my backyard? Please, please be compassionate to these people. Give them advance notice and not just a few weeks. I would just encourage you strongly as a city council, city planning commission, whoever is its responsibility to do that, that you would be compassionate to these people and let them know as far in advance as possible what their options and what's going to be happening to their property. Because most of them do not know that and are not aware. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public hearing, and commissioners, we can discuss this. Any questions, any comments, any concerns?
I just had a question, like Teresa mentioned, just the stormwater runoff, what the plan was, but it sounds like the engineers are the ones that have to change all that and make a plan for what that's going to consist of. Okay.
Scott, I was wondering too, just with their original plan, and then it looks like it's shifting south, if I'm correct. Is there no way to run it into that other open space between the northernmost point and then the south point? I mean, obviously you guys have the people who know how to get it there, and
Yeah, I think
I don't. I just was curious.
I think what Rick is referring to is the 2 basins on the southwest corner down here. We could augment them and take a little bit of space out of these 2 lots here. They're both adequately sized and could dedicate some additional area for that stormwater to be accommodated. That's kind of naturally where the water wants to run, downhill
Gotcha.
too.
Thank you.
And this concern with the property line, I knew that the developer was going to talk to the owners. And has that taken place?
Yeah, it should be clear. The Cinnamon Ridge folks to the north here, you can see it on the plat. There's these dashed lines that run parallel. This is public right of way. So this has always been city property. And over time, those folks, that wasn't well understood where that line was. And so they, they spread their elbows a little bit and had their sheds put a little bit further and encroached in there. So it was never theirs to have, but they enjoyed it for many years. And those folks have been informed for several months now. Their property manager attended the first meeting with the development plan review. So that is understood by that community, and the developer will be working with a few property owners just on the northeast corner to move those elements out of the right of way. City council was very cautious. They wanted to impact as little as possible. And so even though the city has the right to request that all of the property owners along that right of way remove their encroachment items. The city council just said, hey, let's just impact those where the road. So you'll see right here where the road connects, there's 3 or 4 of those lots that are actually impacted with the road installation, and we'll just ask that those folks move their items for now. But in the future, the city does have the right to request this right of way, remain open. So the city council was aware of that, and they wanted to use as little impact as possible.
And I just want to add one more thing, unfortunately, or you can go ahead if you want.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I might be wrong, but I'm not sure that any of those homes are owners.
That's true.
And so I'm sure that the city sent the letter to the owner, who obviously had the manager come. But I think we need to remember that these people don't own that property. They've used it. I don't, I have no problem with that. But the notification goes to the landowner.
That's correct. However, to be perfectly clear, this is an administrative application. The city does not send notice to adjacent property owners if it's a by right development. There's no zone change here. There's no request outside of what is permitted by the zone. We do issue a notice of public hearing, and that goes broadly to everybody in the community. But we don't put a door hanger on everybody's door in this type of a situation. But they were informed. They did have several folks who attended the meeting, but
So they knew.
specifically their property manager was here.
There were several folks the last meeting we had.
I just think it's good to
Yes.
know we're not they're not owners of the land.
Okay.
We're not impacting.
Yeah, it's owned by a single corporate entity out of California. Each of those individuals are renters of their pad where their trailer is located.
And it's their responsibility to alert their,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, stuff like this happens in the communities, and we know that. I mean, people put up fences on the wrong side of the land and stuff like that.
And it's usually
happen.
just a miscommunication where
I
they just
think,
didn't know
yeah.
where the line was.
I think the city council is aware and are sympathetic to the issue and will work with that.
Which is good.
Any other comments?
Just
Parker?
not to
Porter? Sorry.
not to belabor the point, but it sounds like if there are concerns from the resident, they need to get in contact with management to understand that.
Yes.
Of their property, not necessarily the city.
So Scott, we have to discuss a couple of things for this.
Yeah, so as part of this review, what's interesting here is it is administrative. It is just a technical application of the code. However, since there is right-of-way, it does need to go to council for their approval to vacate that right-of-way. So typically, planning commission is the land use authority, but in this situation, you'll be a recommending body to send it to city council. And this is where it gets gray. I don't think the state had a lot of understanding when they passed SB 174, because in these situations where there's a need to vacate right of way, or if there's a development agreement, go to council, and that wasn't really clear in the state's legislation. So in this situation, arguably the planning commission could approve the subdivision plat and then just send the right of way vacation to city council for their consideration. But since they're kind of tied at the hip, we might as well just send both to city council at the same time.
Okay, I think, are we ready to make a proposal, a recommendation? Feel okay about this? Teresa?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve, which includes the staff recommendation on the storm water
The condition.
condition.
And I'd recommend if in your motion, you would specifically address the vacation, that there's a recommendation on the vacation element as well.
Including a recommendation on the vacation.
It has been moved. Do you have a second?
I second.
Heather second. So Teresa moved, Heather second to send a positive recommendation on including the staff recommendations and dealing with the vacation of the property right away. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. Thank you. Let's move on to number 2. Scott, you want to take us on this one?
Yeah, so this particular item, there are some nuances here that we're going to need to talk through. It's similar to the one we just had, but different in many ways as well. So these 2 subdivisions haven't been just quick, easy subdivisions because there's a lot of layers that have to. That's kind of the same with this particular subdivision. You guys have seen the previous subdivision because it's part of the city center, so it has an extra layer of review of the development plan. This particular application is just a subdivision that is coming to you for the first time. But it is a single-family subdivision in the R120 zone, and it incorporates a couple of things. There is a preliminary plat, development plans. There's also public right-of-way vacation associated with this one, and then there's also a development agreement. And that development agreement contains a zoning modification that has to be reviewed legislatively because it offers an exemption from a code requirement. So all of these things are being considered as part of this first review. It is administrative, but again, because there's right-of-way vacation and because there's a development agreement that offers a zoning modification, you as the Planning Commission will be the recommending body. City Council will be the land use authority here as well, okay? So let's just talk about the overall subdivision here. We do have our applicant, Craig Winder, as well in the audience. He's happy to chat through some of these things. I think he has a few things he wants to speak to, so we'll want to give him some time here in a minute. But you'll see, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Try to keep it all in frame. Okay, so this is located at approximately 2750 North and 12th East. Okay, you'll see that this road here, this is the 12th East Road that will be connecting in the near future. That is the master plan connection of 12th East that runs all the way down south into Logan City by the Foothill Mart, and then continues all the way north through North Logan City. But this is a primary north-south corridor through town. 2750 North right now is a stubbed road out of the North Park subdivision off of 10th East. So right now there's a little stub road here. It's a 50-foot right-of-way stubbed road, which is kind of an older right-of-way that we don't have as a standard road width in our current DSTM, but it was stubbed as a 50-foot right-of-way. And the property is zoned R120, so 20,000 square foot, roughly half-acre zoning is what the zoning is for this particular piece of property. As you'll see, this is laid out as what we call a density bonus subdivision. There are three different mechanisms in our subdivision ordinance for subdividing property. One is just a traditional subdivision where you split up the land by the minimum standards in the zone. There's a density determinant subdivision, which allows for some lots to be a little bit smaller as long as other bigger. So it's like an averaging tool. And then the third one, which is the one that is being requested with this application, is what we call a density bonus subdivision. And the bonus is based on open space being preserved. So with the open space being preserved, there's a bonus that is granted for a few extra lots in exchange for that open space. Okay. In the R120 zone, the density bonus is allowed to be up to 25% if that amount of open space is dedicated. So the gross acreage on this particular subdivision is 15 1/4, 12.26 acres. And if they were to set aside 25% of that acreage as open space, then they can get a bonus above the base density, okay? So what we're looking at, if you do the math, they are able, if they were to set aside 25%, they could get up to 37 lots. That's how the math works out. The math actually goes to 36.6, and the ordinance allows you to round up if you're past a half point. So by right, this particular subdivision could have had 37 lots. However, the configuration of property, sometimes it's not laid out in a super efficient way. Sometimes it's difficult to get frontage to all of those lots, where all the lots are the right width, based on how deep or how wide the parent parcel is. So you'll see on this one, there's quite a bit of acreage on the south side that is a very unique configuration. It's kind of a pie shape, and it's because it's adjacent to the canal, and it makes it difficult to efficiently lay those out. So when the applicant originally laid this out, they were able to get 34 lots into this subdivision with a minimum lot widths. And based on that open space, 34 lots, that's about as far as they could efficiently get that divided up. And what we were looking at is we were looking through just the development requirements of this particular subdivision. Let me go back to the staff report and pull up this exhibit. what you'll see here is in the city, the culinary water system is split into different pressure zones. And it's how we regulate the pressure throughout town. And there's what we call pressure reducing valves that keep your pressures in check as you go from one zone to the next. You don't want it to be too high. And the boundary of this zone is right through the subject property. So when you look at the culinary water and how to get water into the subdivision, there's a need for a pressure reducing valve. Those are extremely expensive. They're about $100,000. And they represent what we call a system-wide improvement, where it's not needed just for this development. It improves the system throughout the rest of the city and surrounding areas. So it is what we would consider a requirement that is above and beyond what one development needs for its own use. Okay, so that's one element in this subdivision that was a unique consideration. Hopping back over to the plan here, the other of which is in our ordinance. When you look at how do you get adequate frontage on streets connecting in from existing stubs. This loop road around provides frontage to the majority of these north and west lots. And then pulling this stub from the west side, pulling it east, the furthest this road needs to go to provide adequate frontage for this, this further eastmost lot is about here, where a cul-de-sac bulb could provide adequate frontage. Keep in mind, everything from this point is not part of the subdivision boundary. It is an off-site location. Okay, do you see my cursor here?
Mhm.
So in order to connect this road over to this future four-way intersection, there's a requirement that there be an off-site improvement. So when we're talking about what a city can and can't require of a development, there is what we call proportionate exactions. And a city legally can only ask a developer to do what is proportionate to their impact. And that usually is on-site or proportionate to what the number of lots actually need from an infrastructure and an access standpoint. The other thing about this that is unique is the canal connection that traverses through this intersection right here. It's one thing to ask a developer to try to connect with an off-site improvement that is disproportionate. And it's another thing to ask them to connect when there is a substantial bridging requirement. There's box culverts that have to be put in for the canal to traverse under this intersection. And that's tremendously expensive as well. So to the tune of $200,000 of increased cost just for those box culverts. Okay. So what we looked at is we said, well, we could just put a cul-de-sac bulb right here and call it a day. That would be a tremendously missed opportunity for connectivity. We don't want to do that. The applicant's in agreement, it's not the right thing to do. We want to find a way to get this connected, but there's also the reality of substantial costs as well. Okay. So those are the two unique considerations about this project that when we sat down with the developer, we were trying, how do we get a win-win situation out of this, this development? And what we brainstormed and what is shown on this concept is 2 flag lots have been added to allow for 36 lots. Again, it's still below what was permitted by right if they had enough open space, which would have been 37. But where we're adding this flag lot in right here, and then the second one on the south side adjacent to the canal, it allows for us to create additional revenue on the developer side at the exchange of some open space. So what normally would have been about a 25% open space dedication, what you see here is still 2 acres of dedication, but it's about 13.5%. So it's about half of the open space in exchange for those 2 lots to pay for those disproportionate exactions that we cannot legally ask the developer to do. So this represents a zoning exception. We're working with a developer saying, hey, we want to find a way to make these connections and to improve our system-wide infrastructure. Let's see if there's a creative way to do that. So for that reason, this application has a development agreement proposed. It cannot be approved by the Planning Commission because it's a zoning modification. And so there needs to be a recommendation to City Council to determine whether or not they approve that. that modification. Okay, so that is the premise of what is being proposed. What is shown on this preliminary plat and in the development plans, the DRC has found to be compliant with our code, with exception of these lots being added. But there is a need for us to provide that recommendation to City Council, whether you're in favor or if you have some concerns there. The DRC does have a positive recommendation. We believe this is a win-win trade-off, and we'd like to see if that's something that the Planning Commission and City Council would agree with. Okay. Craig, would you like to say anything towards that and why we've gotten to this point?
Good evening. So yeah, I'm actually very excited about this. I wasn't terribly excited about the box culvert.
Can you tell us your name, please?
Apologize. My name is Craig Winder.
Thank you.
I'm the owner of CV Arena, which is the owner of the property. So yeah, a couple of really expensive system improvements here, and a very expensive connection opportunity. I'll be honest, I think it's best to connect, even though I'm not required to connect. This neighborhood is in my ward, and I want this neighborhood to feel connected to. This would be the westernmost part of the ward, and I believe in connectivity, and I believe in connection, human connection. So I wanted to connect 2750 to 1200 East anyway. I do recognize that that would represent some off-site costs, which, as Scott mentioned, are not required by law. When the issue of the box culverts and the PRV came up, that was very daunting. Those are very expensive, and it's not that many lots to spread those costs across. So when the city proposed, well, what if we did a couple of flag lots? That felt good. Candidly, again, I'm in agreement with this. I feel good about this. Do I think it's a win-win? Overall, yes, because I think this represents the best subdivision that we can come up with this property, especially because even with the open space reduction, you have all of these homes that walk out onto an acre and a quarter of manicured, usable, high quality open space, and a walking trail that goes all along the canal, and additional open space up in the corner there. Now there will be some water retention there as well, but it's meaningful, usable open space that really approves the aesthetics of this subdivision. I like this way more than if we were to just do half-acre lots. So yeah, I feel good about it. With the PRV, I mean, again, we're already doing things that we weren't required under the law to do. We're going to put sidewalk. Not only are we putting the asphalt, 25 feet of asphalt to 1200 East, which is the minimum, we're also putting in the storm drain. We're putting in sidewalk. We're putting in storm drain on the south side of the road. Again, not of 2750, not required by the law. We just want a finished subdivision that we can be proud of. And I like the idea of being a partner with the city in coming up with something that works for both sides. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you. Teresa?
It's probably a silly question, but so the flag lots will be accessed by
Private driveways, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it's 20 foot wide.
That's correct. Yep.
Foot wide driveways, yeah.
On both of them, yeah.
And again, flag lots are expensive because I have to put in another, 150 feet of sewer, 150 feet of water, all of those things. But again, and that is why we did ask for larger flag lots. It'll help me recoup some of the cost of doing that. And yet we still felt like, again, we have centrally located open space that is just really going to be nice. It'll be managed by an HOA.
That's what I was going to ask
Yes.
next.
There will be CC&Rs. There will be an HOA that manages and maintains the open space.
That was my
Okay,
other
that was
question.
my next question.
That was mine too, so.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? All right, thank you. We'll open our public hearing. Do I need to read the rules again, Scott?
I think you're okay.
Okay. Same rules apply. If anybody wants to say anything, you've got 3 minutes. Please state your name. So we'll open up our public hearing. Okay, we will close our public hearing. Thank you. Commissioners, comments, questions, want to talk amongst us?
I do have a couple more things I want to just point out. Just a couple details I want to make sure are on the record. Hopping back over to the staff report, one of the things that is part of this, the subdivision I had mentioned, there's right-of-way vacation that is more of a cleanup item than anything. If you look at the county recorder's plats, there's a reference to a 10th East public right-of-way that was dedicated in the 1800s. 10th East was established when the neighborhood to the west, North Park, was installed, in the 2000s. So 10th East is established, and in order to clean this up, we want to make sure that it's clear. We're gonna clean this up on the plat. So again, similar to the last one we had just discussed, we're mentioning this, and we'll want to make sure that is part of your motion, if you're comfortable with that we mentioned that it's something we'd be okay to vacate. The other is, as Craig had mentioned, the open space would be HOA maintained. And technically speaking, our code requires the open space to be dedicated to the city. And that has been problematic in the past because we don't want a park to maintain in perpetuity if it's not part of our parks master plan. So we're glad to have the open space. The general plan seeks opportunities to acquire open space, but if we can keep it HOA maintained in perpetuity, that's one less thing the city has to maintain. But it provides open space for the residents in that geographic area. Also, a nod to Craig is that those open spaces would be open to the public. Obviously, the HOA can establish rules, but it's hard to kick someone off of an HOA park if they're just walking past it, for example. So I think that's something to be commended. But wanted to mention those things. In the development agreement, we are saying that we are okay with the HOA maintaining that in perpetuity. It's technically a code modification as well. Okay, so the density and the HOA management of the HOA are the 2 points of consideration in the development agreement. Okay.
Okay. And, okay. Any questions before I ask that? Comments? Okay.
My one comment is appreciate the developer working with the city to work on creating connectivity in our city, and I think it makes sense for the space. I agree with that. So
As I read through this, it made a lot of sense to me in my mind trying to figure it all out, but I think it's a good plan. Are we ready to make a we're making a recommendation again to all of this. Somebody? Teresa?
Well, it has a lot of points.
It has a lot of
I'm
points.
like, I need it on my
But
screen.
we'll
and
get it.
through
We'll
my
get it through
laptop, so
there.
I'm like, where?
But if Scott will help me
A
with
cheat
those,
will help
code.
you.
If you want a
Well,
cheat code, at the top of the staff report, I don't know. Let me pull that up. I'll
Yeah,
just put it on the top
we're
of
having
the
a hard
screen.
time because you're on a
Yeah,
page we can't
Usually,
read our
if you
notes.
follow the application request and then just adopt the facts, findings, and conditions in the staff report, then you'll cover all your bases.
Okay. Go for it, Teresa.
You going again? Okay.
Well,
She's good
Someone
at it.
else
Yeah,
can.
yeah, she does a good job. She did.
I'll make a motion that we make a recommendation to the city council for
What kind of a recommendation?
a positive
Okay.
recommendation to the city council for a preliminary plat subdivision improvement plan, public right-of-way vacation, 10,000 East, 1,000 East, and a development agreement containing zoning modifications for a proposed 36-lot, single-family subdivision in the R120 zone,
Subject to the
Yeah.
facts.
Yeah.
including the
Yes.
staff,
Say that.
including the conditions included in the staff report.
And the facts and findings.
Facts
Facts and
There
findings.
you go.
It's a lot of words.
We know what you mean. Thank you, Teresa. We need a second.
I'll second again.
All right.
Good thing.
It has been moved and seconded that we do all of those positive recommendations to the city council. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? No. Thank you. All right. Thank
Thanks
you,
for
Mr. Rinder.
scrolling to that, Scott, so we could.
I'm going to take off. I need
Yeah.
to leave.
We have one more.
Good luck.
We can
Okay.
do it. Okay. We're up
Erickson,
next
are you
on
okay
number
to lead
3.
us forward?
You what?
You okay to lead us forward?
Let's go.
No, you're great.
Oh, I was like, he's leaving too? Everyone's leaving.
No, he's not leaving. He's just saying goodbye.
I thought you were like,
Well,
You're
if
outta
she's-
here
if she's
too.
leaving,
yeah,
You can do this.
yeah, I'm good. I'm not worried at all.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Okay, I'll do that at the very end. I'll write that on my notes. Okay. Scott, do you want to lead us in the work session, please?
Yeah, so this is a work session. We've been talking about a lot of code adjustments. This is one more. We're still in Title 12C, our land use ordinance. Again, we adopted our general plan in February. We are going through a lot of code adjustments to put the vision and the goals from the general plan into our code. So as we develop forward, we are using those updated code adjustments so our vision can come to reality. We've been working through this for several months and we've got several months ahead of us. All of the code adjustments are available for review online at any time. For anybody in the public who wants to follow along, you can do so at nlcplan.org. All of the draft materials are there in a Google Doc format. You do have comment rights, so anybody can hop in, read through, provide comments at any time. But this work session that we'd like to go through today is to discuss what is called a neighborhood commercial zone. And I wanted to just give a little bit of a precursor here. So this is the future land use map from the 2013 general plan. Our most recent general plan that has now been superseded by the 2025 general plan. And I wanted to show this because back in 2013, there was an idea that perhaps at some point we'd want to have maybe some neighborhood commercial nodes, maybe a corner market or something along those lines. So that's kind of where the idea first has its origin. We haven't really developed any neighborhood markets. I mean, perhaps 12th East and was it 2200 North, 2100 North, kind of by the old city offices. There's, we've got that service shop on the corner. We got the school district building. I don't know that we necessarily call that a commercial node, even though we do have some commercial uses there. I mean, I guess we could. But the idea is that perhaps as we continue to grow as a community, it would be nice to have some neighborhood, services. Maybe there's a pharmacy or a corner market for some quick grab groceries or what have you. So that idea was in the 13 general plan. The 25 general plan, we didn't specifically put little circles on the map because we don't want to necessarily identify those locations quite yet. I think we just want to see where we organically and where perhaps some commercial uses might make sense at some point in the future. But if you look in the general plan further, there is, let's go back. There we go. There is a section specifically set aside to guide us in what maybe this neighborhood commercial district or zone might look like. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom of these future land use district subsections. And we put one together for the neighborhood commercial. Keep going, keep going. We're close. There we go. Okay, residential commercial node sub-district. So we put together, some development characteristics, some introductory language to say we want something small scale, neighborhood serving commercial spaces that seamlessly integrate into residential areas. But we said rather than designating specific locations, this sub-district establishes criteria and standards for appropriate neighborhood commercial development opportunities within residential districts. So essentially, if somebody wants to do something, to this scale, a commercial scale, they would need to come to the city for a zone request. So everything would be legislative in nature. They would say, hey, I've got a corner property at this intersection. I have an idea for a flower shop or whatever they have in mind, right? They would come to the city. They would say, I would like to change my zoning to a neighborhood commercial zone. And they would have to have a proposal associated with it so we know what their intention is. And we would talk through it. And we say, is it the right scale? Is it the right location? Is it the right type of use, for this location to fit into this existing neighborhood? And if we're all comfortable, then we could proceed with a zone change and allow them to move forward with that type of a development. But we need an ordinance to allow that zone to be created. And that's what we're trying to do here. So if somebody does come in with that request, we have the zone available to apply to the property. Okay. It's interesting when we were looking at this, we wanted some example images, and you can see, maybe a small little grocery, maybe a bookstore, a cafe, those types of uses that serve primarily that neighborhood. I mean, in Cache Valley, the first thing that comes to mind is the Island Market. Very little parking, very little traffic as far as coming and going, but mostly it's folks that walk there to get ice cream cones or whatever. That's something of my childhood. I lived on the island while my parents were in grad school, and we'd walk to the corner market and get ice cream cones. So same idea, same concept. So we have some draft language that we've drafted. There we go, find the right tab. And it essentially will be a subsection in our zoning ordinance. It will also entail a specific column in our land use table. Okay, so there's the text and the description in our code, and then there's the table that specifies what uses might be permissible if such a zone were to be granted. Okay, did you guys get a minute to read through this? It's short enough. I think it's not like a brain.
I finally found all the stuff that you hid in there, so it's good.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, we've pasted a lot of the language directly from the general plan into this ordinance because that was our intent. The general plan had that idea. We wanted to stick pretty close to it. So that's where we're saying, hey, we want small scale, low intensity neighborhood serving commercial uses that can be seamlessly incorporated into residential areas to serve local needs. We don't want people driving across the valley to come to a neighborhood, corner store because their use is specific to a regional draw. We want it to be a local draw. So that's the intent. The language has been drafted to try to bring that to reality. Do you guys have any questions as far as what you've read so far, or any thoughts as to where maybe this may stray from the intent of? Feels like we're mostly on target. Okay, this land use table, like I'd mentioned, we've created a new column, and if you scroll through, there are uses in here. The majority of them are conditionally permitted. The X's obviously are not permitted, so it wouldn't be primarily for residential. There are uses in here that are more specific to restaurant, small scale retail, bed and breakfast. Maybe there's a private garage to service the commercial use. Small residential healthcare facility. So again, maybe there's like a pharmacy. Maybe there's a chiropractor's office or something along those lines. Maybe not chiropractor because it's more of a regional draw. That might be a bad example, but maybe a small neighborhood church, school, library, daycares, maybe a fire station if need be, administrative offices for city. Maybe there's a park office or a neighborhood office for one of the city departments. Educational facilities, foster care, microeducation, charter school. Some of the things I think are more important are a little bit further down, maybe a little bit of a recreation facility. Zero manufacturing, zero intense uses. Obviously, we don't want anything that is vehicular oriented, no drive-through restaurants, no gas stations. We want to keep it more pedestrian friendly. No storage units, no automotive sales, no auto recycling, childcare, yes. Sales and services, again, there is a little sub bullet here, which is going to be it will be a note that very specifically qualifies what type of a retail sales facility, because we don't want mid-box, we don't want anything that would attract a lot of traffic, right?
I have a question when you're done.
Go ahead,
if you want.
anytime.
Will you remind me of the vision? Like I think of the Island Market. I'm
Mhm.
trying to envision like what parking or, when we're trying to think small or corner market, what is the vision of the parking? And it might be in here and I don't recall.
Yeah, and that is important because that will definitely change the character of what it
Yeah.
might be.
So I just was curious what
And,
that
and a
looked like.
follow-up with that is, we want it small scale, but usually businesses want as much traffic and possible as they
Mhm.
can get to be viable and
Yeah.
productive and make some money.
I just am curious what like that,
What it
how
would be.
that vision connects. And we talk about small scale or walking or community. I'm just curious, like if there is a standard set of like, this can't exceed more than 4 parking stalls
Mhm.
for this business, type of business.
Yeah, and there's
setup or
different
structure.
parking ratios in our code for different business types. Restaurants demand more parking than maybe
Yeah.
a bookstore would or
Or the
something.
hair salon, like with 2
Yeah.
booths or something. I don't
Exactly.
know. I'm just trying to think
Yeah.
how you, like some of these things are very different than the other listed. And so
Yeah.
that's just the first thing that comes to my mind because we always talk about parking.
Yeah.
But I mean, in my mind, it seems cute, like the Island Market and you maybe need very much parking.
And I am usually the parking czar here, but I just think with this one, I thought, because my kids grew up Island Market
Yeah.
users,
Mhm.
and so much of their traffic is on foot.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
my
walking
kids,
traffic. They
their
do
bike
have
or
they
their
do have
foot.
grab and go. They have parallel parking along the roadway where people kind of come in, grab a gallon of milk, and then off they go. So they still have vehicular access, but it's not meant to be a big old parking lot.
Yeah, like 4
Well, and it's not
stalls or
somewhere that somebody would park for a long time
Mhm.
because it's little.
Yeah,
So-
and that's what I'm thinking is that the vision Island Market?
Yeah.
That's exact, like we're connecting those two things
It
together.
definitely is. And I think we could probably do a better job of specifying exactly the parking situation because parking, it's different for every type of use, right?
Right.
And we would want to look at that carefully. Let me go back to.
But wouldn't that come up when somebody came to propose it?
Uh-huh.
That's when it would come up.
I just wonder if we need something in place before. it
So
comes, like
there's
we have
two
to
things
have-
that would kind of help us check a development before it moves forward. One, anybody who wants to use this would have to go through a zone change.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where they have to come with a very specific site plan or proposal for us to entertain, because we're not going to entertain a zone change unless we know what that looks like in the future.
Then, depending on the zone change, would determine what type of business it was, would
Use.
determine what kind of parking would be mandated
Yeah,
and
yeah,
required.
Correct.
So that
Okay.
should
Yep.
resolve whatever concerns we have.
Exactly. So then let's just say that we approve a zone change and there's a hair salon that is approved and they go in and let's say that they move out of town and that space becomes vacant and what's the next use? Who moves in there? And maybe it's a barber shop, maybe it's something totally different and we need to look at it again for whoever the next tenant may be. In the land use table, you'll see that all those uses are conditional uses. So that requires that to come back to the planning commission for a conditional use permit before a new business license would be issued for that second or successive tenant. So there's those two checks in place where, and this happens all over town, a business moves, they go out of business, someone else moves in, and we have to look to see, hey, do you have enough parking for this change of use? Do you meet those requirements, yes or no? And so that's where technically the business license is a third check because even if it's a permitted use, we still check to make sure they're meeting the requirements. But I think parking is important for us to note. And I think that would be good to have some language, maybe a maximum type of a cap to say, no matter what this may be, we don't want more than, let's just say, a third of the parcel becoming parking. I don't know. We'd have to kind of brainstorm that a little bit. As the consultant and I were kind of chatting through this language and putting it onto paper, we were looking for examples around town. There's not a lot in Cache Valley other than the Island Market to really glean. And there's other examples that aren't great examples because they're up on campus where they've got a large student population that are on foot regardless. But if you look down like in Sugar House, there's some good neighborhood markets where they've got maybe a small brunch cafe. They're only open for breakfast and lunch. There's bookshops, those types of things as well. And they all have either parking in the rear, so people can pull behind them and they park 3 or 4 cars in the rear, so they're not cluttering up the front, the frontage. But none of them ever have a drive-through. So they're all just, you have to either walk up or use the very limited parking that is available. So that by its own nature kind of limits the types of businesses that could be successful there. And it usually is something that is specific to the neighborhood. Folks within, 4 or 5 blocks would be willing to walk to, instead of trying to drive to. I think that's a good comment. I might want to go back and chat with our consultant to say, let's talk a little bit more about parking. Let's add some language into this as guiding language. So when and if we get a zone change request, we can have something in code that already anticipates what the maximum the city would be willing to consider. I think that's good insight. Okay. That's kind of the intent. I think the vision was established early in our last general. It still holds true in our new general plan. Obviously, we created this potential district. This language, it's malleable still, but I think that's the intent. Small scale, not automotive, pedestrian friendly, services just that neighborhood. It's not a regional draw. I think that's hitting all of those key variables that we're interested in. Okay. Any other thoughts or things you'd like to chat through on this? Okay.
Makes sense to me.
Okay. I think we'll massage it some more, but
Is this something we're trying to encourage, business owners to come and do, or are we just trying to have it as a product, an option if someone
it's an
wanted to?
option.
Okay.
Honestly, if somebody comes to us, one of the things that we kind of struggle with is when home-based businesses grow too big. Folks that want to do like small engine repair or something like that in their garage, and then they end up having snowmobiles on their front yard.
Yeah.
And it's a good problem to have. They're growing, they're being successful. That's great, but there's a limit to the impact on your neighbors. And so right now our home-based business ordinance indicates everything has to be done indoors. So if you have a garage or a shop, everything has to be indoors. All your storage, all your materials, customer vehicles, whatever it may be. If you grow beyond that, you've got to do something else. So maybe some home-based businesses could benefit from this. Specifically, I'm thinking about daycares, salons, aesthetics, those types of, taking a few clients here and there. They're not reliant on a lot of visibility. People know of them through social media or otherwise, and they're not drawing a lot of traffic. That might be a good opportunity for these types of areas. We'll see. So
Go ahead.
Just to finish my thought, I think if the goal is to have an option for someone to go to that needs it or is looking for that, then I think it's okay as is. If you're trying to encourage it, I think there needs to be other incentives to draw business in, because it's hard there has to be kind of that niche need or a neighborhood, like a local need, right, for that to grow homegrown. But again, if you want to encourage those nodes, I think we need more to incentivize. But I think it's okay as it is.
Yeah, that is a good policy discussion. I mean, do we as a community want to try to pursue this and find folks and offer, intersections or corridors where they may be successful and try to work through it as a partnership and say, here's where we might be open to a zone change to a neighborhood commercial. I mean, obviously every community is open to economic development opportunities, and, we try to catch the big fish or the fancy fish on Main Street or in our manufacturing areas. We want those, those good job creating businesses or tax revenue generating retail shops. We look for that. Every community does. But if we want to incentivize some of these neighborhood scale businesses, there could be a proactive approach versus a reactive approach too.
Right.
I think my opinion is, it's great to go after the big fish. I really like, the small town type feel. And I think that's the feedback we've got from our community as well, is they like that. And so I think this represents an opportunity. Like if we had 1 or 2 island markets in North Logan, that would add a really cool aspect to our community. I think that'd be a really neat thing to have. So I'd like to see encouraging it. I don't know where we go from there, but
Yeah.
I think
Honestly, I think where we could go is we have an economic development master plan. It's something we have on the shelf. Typically, you don't crack open that plan unless you have someone who is proactively engaged in economic development for the city. North Logan, we do have an economic development individual. They're very part-time. If there's an opportunity we think we should pursue, we'll have them go and pursue that opportunity, but they're not out there fishing all day. Or saying, hey, our goal is to put some sort of an island market type of a situation somewhere in town. Let's go find that business owner or somebody who is looking to start such a venture. We don't have that bandwidth, but I think that there could be, if that's a goal and a drive of ours to do so. But you're right, in the general plan, there's a lot of folks that said, hey, we want small town feel, we want commercial that blends in, and it could help that sense of place.
So to that point, though, with the city center, we're actually pursuing and trying to invite. Could that just be an adjunct? Oh, by the way, since they're connected, do you know of anybody that might be interested in doing these places? So that might be something you kind of encourage, or I don't know.
Absolutely. The scale is very different for sure.
But they still are players. They still might have connections and know individuals that that might be interested.
And then, if we wanted to go, a step further in that economic development plan, we may, we may start to look at specific sites and kind of hone in on this and say, the intersection of 2500 and I'm just going to throw an example out, 16th East. There's actually already a residential business zone on that corner. That owner has expressed interest in some sort of a Airbnb plus shop of maybe cafe. It's a nebulous idea right now, but they've expressed interest in perhaps, and that might be a good intersection. So we could start to maybe put more dots on the map.
So like up towards Elk Ridge Park, kind of that intersection?
Further east. So on 16th East.
12th is
okay, 16th.
Mm-hmm. That's one perhaps. There's lots of different intersections in town where there may be more opportunities. More so
Further
east, obviously,
okay.
because we've got Wolfpack Way that's going to be mixed use, the city center mixed use, so it's going to be more easterly in our city. But that's where we didn't put stars on the map in the general plan on purpose. We wanted to leave it kind of open, but if we want to be proactive, we do, I think, need to identify candidate locations. So when a business owner says, I'm interested in something like this, we could say, well, here's where that might or could be successful.
I was just I'm delving back into the parking thing again. But, Four Seasons with their retail, it's not one store. I understand that, but I walk that a lot. And it's just parking is not an issue with those. So I'm sure, yeah, I think we need to be concerned. I'm not saying that, but it's not an issue there. It hasn't been so far.
Right use. Yeah, those are very client-based types of businesses. Right now, I think they've got a couple of salons, maybe an insurance office where they serve one client at a time on an appointment basis, and parking really isn't that big of a deal, but it's just the right use for the right location, really.
And I think of 16th East as being different than Wolfpack Way with
Very much so.
clients or
Oh, yeah,
service
what
and
kind of
stuff. So
business- what kind of business you'd want
yeah,
there?
like if you get a
I'd be
island
interested.
market or something like that, an ice cream shop, you could have drivers driving home to head up into Mahogany Ridge or something. You know what I mean? So there's
Yeah.
parking and going versus walking and going, even though we like the walking. Like that's where I'm
Yeah, I think it's cool.
like
Actually, there's
playing devil's advocate, like the pros and
people
cons.
there
But
enjoy
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
Like
all
I
about
like,
it's all about scale and use.
I know. I just don't want that one thing to come up and then we're like, oh no.
Like the big building.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I think of because for the most part, I'm like, oh, it'll all work perfect. And then it might not.
They
Yeah.
better.
The only thing we haven't really discussed is aesthetics. Obviously there's a charm that you're trying to get with some of these smaller, more quaint businesses, and we might want to put something in the language that's a little bit more geared towards minimum aesthetic requirements. So I might mention that to our consultant, brainstorm some language and throw some of that in there as well.
Yeah.
So I'll bring up parking and I'll bring up aesthetics and we'll see if we can throw some more in here, but
I mean, it's not a
we'll
stress.
move on. We have more to come, obviously, so we're not going to bring this back to the planning commission. We've got good feedback from you. We'll kind of tool it that way. We'll obviously look at it as a whole, and feel free at any time to hop in here and re-review and put more comments in if you'd like to, or if you have a shower thought, you want to throw something in there, feel free to do so. Just so that everybody is aware, our next discussion for code amendments is going to be based on the form-based code for the city center. So that is a big chunk of code that will go into 12C. We're still in Title 12, Chapter C. The form-based code is over 100 pages in its draft form. We're going to dumb it down for you guys, but
Thank you.
No offense taken.
We're not
it's-
offended. We're like,
it's a
dumb it
lot.
down.
It's a lot for us to wrap our heads around, but I think it's very well written, and it's going to do what we're asking it to do. We anticipate having that discussion in July. We have one meeting in July. I forget 9th or 10th. It's not the first week of July because of the holiday.
Yeah, it's
The 10th.
Yep, the 10th.
What do I have
We
on
do
my
still
calendar?
have one more meeting in June on the 19th. It's Juneteenth, but in the state of Utah, it's observed on Monday, the 16th. So
Hmm.
that meeting is open if we have items to be considered. If we don't have anything, we'll go ahead and cancel. I don't have additional work session language to review at that meeting on the
19th.
19th. And I don't know that we'll have anything as far as land use applications to review either. So it's looking like it will be canceled, but we'll give it another week or so and I'll send out a notice if we do in fact cancel it. But that's where we're at. Okay.
Okay. Anything else on that, or should we move on to staff business?
Yeah, I think we're good on that work session. From a staff business perspective, I wanted to introduce our new planner one, Aaron Thaxton. Do you want to give yourself an introduction?
Sure. You want me to go up there?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
How's it going? Yeah, my name's Aaron Thaxton. I'm the new planner one here. So I'm happy to be working with Scott and all of you as well. Scott poached me from the county. So I've been there 2 years doing land use as a permit tech and everything. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Well,
Any
you're,
questions for me, I guess?
you're just lucky to work with Scott so closely. He's a good
Aaron's a
mentor.
Texas native, so as a,
Which
as a
native?
Texas.
Texas,
Big where?
Which part of Texas? It's a big
San
place.
Antonio.
Oh, I have family there.
Oh, nice.
Texas is a nice spot if you can stand the heat. Just to brag a little bit, so Aaron, we poached him from the county. The county was very upset with us for doing so. But I think that'll be a great opportunity for him to continue to learn and grow. He's in a master's program, working on his master of city planning.
Urban and regional planning, close
Urban.
enough.
Urban and regional. So he's on the track to be, a full-fledged certified planner. So we're happy to have him. We're excited to work on some projects and open up some bandwidth and take some things off my plate and expand into other horizons. So I think that the council is excited to continue our forward thinking. We're trying to get out of the reactivity phase of planning. Unfortunately, a lot of communities in Cache Valley are very reactive. I think that we've got a good thing going. We're trying to achieve some goals that we established with our general plan. So having Aaron on board will be helpful to help us, broaden our horizons and do more things. So welcome, Aaron.
Well,
Okay. I don't have any other business. We don't have any other trainings that are really on the horizon. We're kind of past the conference season, thank goodness. So I'll let you know when and if we have more training opportunities. But yeah, I think that's all I got for you.
do we have any planning commissioner business or discussion? Besides, happy birthday to Porter.
Oh gosh.
Exactly, see?
Yep. Yep. And we'll be sad to see Tracy leave.
Yes, and Tracy's
Yep.
leaving.
Hey, but you're only gone a couple years, so you never know. Maybe we'll have you back on the board when you get
Good.
home.
It's been a great learning
That'll be-
experience. I've appreciated it. This is a wealth of knowledge from you, Scott, and from
Yeah.
everybody here.
So you would
It's
come
been-
back? You would
I
consider
would.
it?
I feel like it would be easier than his next task.
Oh, 'cause
Agreed.
He's
no,
like,
it's been
please
a great
bring
learn-
me.
and to see the side of things as far as the planning and the city and things like that, and just see the good things. I knew there was good things, but just to see how much effort it takes to make sure that those things are good has been very enlightening, and that's been good.
Yeah, it takes a lot of details. So we appreciate your
Yeah.
time and effort. That's not easy. So thank you.
We'll miss you.
Yeah, we will miss you. Okay, so on to next agenda. The next meeting, I guess, is June 19th.
To be
Maybe.
determined. Yeah. June 19th is, that's the date, but I'll let you know if we'll end up holding it or not, but looking further forward, July 10th. Yep.
Great. I might
And that'll be the
going.
only meeting in July, just given the holiday schedule.
Okay.
I think Tracy has a motion to end it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
do
I have a
we
motion to end and conclude our council meeting tonight.
Anyone want to
Yeah.
second that?
Anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Porter, the birthday boy.
Just another
Any
day.
opposed? Okay.
All in favor? Yeah.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
So, yeah, if I can